We'll start with Wonder Woman 1984. Drew, what is that all about?
Well, before I begin, Scott, how many free offs do I get before you have to start bleeping them?
None.
I've noticed he's let some of mine slip through, Drew, in the past. So you might get away with this.
Still,
chance your arm.
I'm thinking if Scott's going for none, then we may have a problem here. Can I get an hour to rewrite my review? No? Oh well, I'll do the best I can. 2017's Wonder Woman was 4/5 of a really good film, until the dull CGI-heavy climax, although that's rather de rigueur for the genre. But it was entertaining, successful, proved, because the harder of thinking apparently required such evidence, that the main character of a superhero action film could be female, and gave its director, Patty Jenkins, a lot of sway. Not all of these things were good, it turns out, but we'll get to that. What it also did, less positively, was paint itself into a corner, both in terms of character. Wonder Woman, Justice League, and I think also Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, having repeatedly established Wonder Woman having withdrawn from view for a century, and by having the final fight be against a god. Not a metahuman, not an alien who gets high on her funky yellow sun, or a being from another dimension or anything. No, a straight up god. And, as well as bothering me that actual deities were canon in this universe, it raised the not insignificant question of, how do you top that in a sequel? Well, apparently what you do is, rather than go big, go stupid. Go very, very stupid. And long. So long. The film begins back in our heroine's childhood, as a young Diana competes in a race against adult Amazons on the island of Themyscira, proving her athletic ability, as well as the ability of her and the other Amazon warriors to be slightly less dreadful digital doubles than in the 2017 film. So, progress. The lengthy sequence exists just to A, set up that there was a super badass Amazon once who had some nifty armour, and B, to allow Diana's mother to deliver some bullshit dime store philosophy about how Diana didn't win because she wasn't ready to win something truth, when in fact she just missed one checkpoint and she'd have been disqualified on a technicality. The film begins in 1984. Did I just say the film begins again? Why, yes I did, because this film has 2 openings, so that's great. As I was saying, the film begins in 1984. And why is this film set in 1984? No idea, but I assume because Stranger Things. Though the period it's set in is inconsequential in every single thing that happens in it. So that's also great. Right, 1984. In a shopping mall in Washington, D.C., where Wonder Woman swoops in to rescue a child endangered by the fallout of a bungled robbery. Unlike the opening's fairly entertaining. But you best make the most of it because it's comfortably more than an hour in this action film until the next action scene. This also is great. We next move to the Smithsonian Museum, where Diana works, and where we meet Kristen Wiig's Barbara, a rather lonely gemologist. She's been tasked by the FBI to identify one of the pieces recovered from the botched robbery. A mysterious and ancient crystal that is absolutely not Aladdin's lamp sans genie, you hear? Barbara is soon visited by Pedro Pascal's Max Lord, or, as I registered him, Matthew McConaughey in Wolf of Wall Street cosplay, a con man and would-be oil tycoon who has been seeking the Dreamstone. Using incredible stealth and skullduggery, he reaches behind Barbara. Lord makes off with the Dreamstone. It's very clever plotting, Craig.
It's the fact you had to deliver it in a whisper to really convey the magnitude of the subterfuge going on there.
Lord makes off with the Dreamstone and, for some reason, turns himself into it, or it into him. So he's now a genie.
Huh?
Yes. I'll carry on. Just go with it, Craig.
Okay. I'm worried I've missed something here, but okay.
No.
As were audiences the world over, yes.
He then uses his new powers to acquire the oil he had hitherto been claiming to have, understandable enough, but then keeps going, forcing people to make wishes and taking stuff from them. Total effing mystery. Most of this part of my review is just question marks. Before Lord got his hands on the stone, though, 2 significant wishes had already been made with it. Barbara wishes to be like Diana. Diana, this woman she's only just met and knows nothing about, but, well, she walks well in high heels. And Diana, the super strong, thousands of years old demigod, wishes for the return to life of Steve Trevor, Chris Pine, the man she knew for a few weeks, but has been pining for since his death 76 years previously. Cool. These wishes work. I want you to please hold on to the word stupid that I mentioned earlier, as this will be your anchor point through all of this. And suddenly Steve Trevor Mintz is in our house, alive, but inhabiting someone else's body. And then he stays for most of the rest of the film, with Princess Diana of Themyscira, wise, moral and compassionate heroine, champion of what is right, apparently 100% unfussed by the fact that her dead lover has taken possession of another human being's body and its ethical and moral implications. As with most things in this movie, this is great. Trevor Mintz's arrival is accompanied by one of only a handful of utterly woeful attempts at humour in the film, where he dresses up in a bunch of 80s outfits. Ho-ho! This is, no doubt, a callback to a similar scene in 2017's Wonder Woman, where Diana arrives in London and struggles to find appropriate clothing in a shop. That's actually quite a charming scene, though, and it works with her naivety and fish out of water situation. Here, it's miserable. Then Steve, the soldier, spy, and adventurer who fought in World War I, is amazed by an escalator, a 19th century invention, and utterly gobsmacked by a subway train, also a 19th century invention, and something that had been operating in one form or another in London, the city he was living in the first film, for more than 50 years at the time of that film's events. But then, shortly afterwards, he hops into a modern fighter jet and can just fly it. Again, great!
Well, these new planes practically fly themselves, Drew.
I'm going to stop here, because we're still only in the early stages of Wonder Woman 1984, and if I listed everything wrong with it, which is everything, then we'd be here a very long time. Not that there's actually an awful lot of plot to follow, mostly just a bunch of messy, dumb and inexplicable stuff that happens up until a comically underwhelming and underlit, almost climactic fight that at least earned itself a minor reprieve by making me imagine Wonder Woman as Batfink, with her wings like a shield of steel. And a finale which largely consists of perhaps the most insipid, hokey, turgid, nonsensical, meaningless and boring speech ever heard in film, which, like everything else, goes on too long. And given how long I've been talking now about this film, I'm aware of the irony. How much of this film's failings are down to Warner Brothers DC's recent mishandling of their properties? There, for instance, clearly is now only one DC screen hero, and that's Superman, with everything else being simply a palette swap, bringing us the exciting tales of Lady Superman and Wet Superman. And how much of it is due to Patty Jenkins' misuse of her power, I'm not sure. But Jenkins herself writing the script for Wonder Woman 1984 is top of my list of suspects. The whole thing is an ugly mess, an hour too long, actually an hour too long, with some dodgy effects. How this is even still possible is beyond me, but DC films in particular have been marked out since Man of Steel by digital doubles barely better than Blade 2, and numerous terrible green screen close-ups, leaden dialogue, and universally wooden acting, especially from Gal Gadot. Well, apart from the wasted Pedro Pascal, who is completely over the top instead. Add to that IMAX sequences even more underwhelming than those we recently complained about in Tenet, and numerous other crimes, big and small, and we have a film that's worse than Suicide Squad. In fact, in Wonder Woman 1984, I think we may have a new low point for big-budget superhero films. Egads. But I suppose without zero, all of the numbers are a bit meaningless. So there's its utility right there. Great.
Wow.
See, here's the thing. I didn't hate Wonder Woman 1984 because I found it almost entirely impossible to care or pay any attention to anything that was going on it. And the most interesting thing to me about this film is not anything that it does, which it is mostly stupid. And when it's not stupid, it's Pedro Pascal shooting the scenery, which, to be honest, I'm on board with. That's cool. He can do that as much as he likes. That was the only fun bit of the film for me. Oh, God, Kirsten Wiig's totally miscast. That whole character just should not be there. There's a great many flaws, most of which you've already pointed out, so I won't go past those again. But what this was, I was really watching this and thinking, who is the market for this these days? I mean, look, if nothing else, we had this kind of similar conversation when the last Spider-Man film came out, in a kind of post-Avengers Endgame world where we've seen superhero films with constant threat escalation over the point of it, which you kind of hinted at in your review as well. But Avengers Endgame and Infinity Wars, they killed half the galaxy and then brought them back. What happens after that? Where do superhero movies go if they wanted to continue on that trajectory? And no one's got a great answer to that. Mm-hmm. I think Marvel might have something, because when you look at what they've got lined up, they all appear to be either smaller scale or weird. Particularly, I've no interest in what WandaVision's doing, really, but the fact that it's a show where you've taken two characters from the Avengers and put them into parodies of sitcoms for some reason, that's definitely weird. So they're doing something with that is nothing related to the kind of ridiculous threats they've got, so they're trying to bring that back down so they can build it back up again. All very sensible. Maybe that's one way they can do it. The other thing and I think that's something that DC needs to start learning as well. But really, what is the purpose of superhero movies these days? Because no one's going to see it for the spectacle, because you can't go out and see it in this post-COVID world. Possibly, we may never get back to that. The whole superhero genre, in my opinion, at least anyway, and I'm sure there's some thesis about this, would be a reaction to how the way that global geopolitics, the way that corporations are controlling everything, the fact that the individual has so little power that it's nice to see an escapist fantasy where one person can make a difference. And we've seen with the whole COVID that one person can't make a difference in the face of something as insignificant as a virus. So how are we going to deal with that as a society? How is that going to come out in films, of which the superhero genre is currently the dominant one? But I don't know how this is going to work going forward. And certainly none of that's even remotely addressed by Wonder Woman 1984, which is very much stuck in a pre-everything of that kind of world. It's a film that might have made sense if this had come out in about 2005, but in the modern era, this speaks to no one and is also garbage as well. So it doesn't really work on any level. So it's very difficult to recommend. Even if we are all just bored looking for something to watch, there's definitely better things to watch than this.
Including an off-television.
Absolutely, yeah. Just really puzzling what they were intending to do with this. And again, Patty Jenkins had a lot of sway in the production in this, and as rightly it should. I'm always on board with certainly giving directors with a vision this kind of budget, but sometimes they waste that, and that's what's happened here.
It's because her vision apparently included having 2 openings. She apparently fought to keep both of the openings. It's so bad.
Which was effectively acting as another introduction, another origin story for Wonder Woman, which we've already done.
Do you guys even watch movies to enjoy yourselves anymore? And I would like to follow up that with the question, have you seen Gal Gadot's thighs recently? I will undoubtedly watch this at some point. I haven't done it yet because, by my understanding, there are 1,982 other movies that I have to watch before I get round to this one. I had no idea the release schedule would be that packed in the meantime. But all of which is to say I haven't seen it. Sorry.
Yes, there's lots of films that we enjoy to watch. Speaking of which, Wolfwalkers.
Yes, including several we talk about in this episode, Craig. So yes, take your cynicism away.
I've drawn a good straw this week, I feel.